کر دیکھا تیرا رنج عاشور کے بجھتے ہوئے شعلے دیکھا تھا جو عاشور کے بجھتے ہوئے شعلے تا عمر دوارا میرے رہا کیا گزری دل سید سجاد پہ اس دم کیا گزری دل سید سجاد پہ اس دم جب لوٹا گیا بیوں کا مکھنا و چادر کس مرد میں ہے حوصلہ جز عابد بیمار کس مرد میں ہے حوصلہ جز عابد بیمار ماں بہنوں کو جو دیکھ لے بلوے میں کھلے سر ماں بہن کو جو دیکھ لے بلوے میں کھلے سر 40 برس روتے نہ کیوں عابد مزتر تا عمر تھمایا رہا آنکھوں میں وہ منظر محمد وآل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم محمد والے محمد صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد والے محمد میں نے دیکھا عالم شاہ کو آلودہ خون میں نے نیزے پہ سر دل بر زہرا میرے عباس کو میں نے دیکھا لیا اس گھر کا گلا خون میں تر میں نے عباس کو ریتی پہ دربتا دیکھا ایک گٹری شہدی پشت پہ لائے ایک گٹری شہدی پشت پہ لائے اس میں نے ٹکڑے ہوئے قاسم کا جنازہ دیکھا اجڑی خلقہ میں ہائے کیوں ہو نہ گئی دور کے ان آنکھوں نے قید خانے میں سکینہ کا جنازہ دیکھا اجڑی خلقہ میں جا کے زینب نے مدینے میں کہا سغرا کو جا کے زینب نے مدینے میں کہا سغرا سے کہوں کس منہ سے کہ پردیس میں کیا کیا دیکھا مجرئی خلقہ میں ظلم ہے مجرئی سجاد نے کیا کیا دیکھا گھر لٹا قید ہوئے باپ کا لاشا دیکھا اجڑی خلقہ میں ان آنکھوں نے کیا کیا دیکھا
محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. Now I would like to invite Maulana Muhammad Beg Sahib to come on the member.
برائے خوشنودی محمد وآل بیت محمد بواد بلند صلوات
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات
There is a request for Surah Fatiha for Munir Akhtar Binte Sayyid Hanif, the mother of Shahid Qasimi, and for all marhumeen and marhumat, inshallah, please recite Surah Fatiha. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين سيما بقية الله الأعظم روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. One of the most primary tendencies and inclinations that we have as human beings is to seek comfort, to be comfortable. It is very prevalent in us. In fact, it is the first thing that inclines us, that makes us move. It's the first thing that we think about before we think about anything else, is comfort. It is embedded into our system by Allah. Wanting comfort, seeking comfort. In fact, it's so important that everything else comes afterwards. All other desires, temptations, shahawat, they are after the issue of comfort in our life. All of these things that we see, they come afterwards. They're not at the beginning. The first thing that we are looking for before we look for anything else is comfort. Now, sometimes other things become more important, but that's only because of certain things that we adopted in our life. For example, if someone is addicted to drugs and he takes drugs, you will see that he will lose his inclination of comfort, and he will be all right being uncomfortable and in pain and stress in his life. He becomes used to it, and that's how he makes himself a sick person. He doesn't go after that. It's only because he was addicted to certain thing else. Or, for example, if someone has a higher level of Iman. If a person has a higher level of Iman, you see that the idea of comfort changes in his mind. You must have heard that, for example, there was a time when an arrow went into the thigh of Imam Ali. Now, an arrow, when it goes inside, it's three-pronged. When it goes inside, it's easier, less painful than when it's actually taken out. Because when it's taken out, it rips apart everything that's coming out. That's how it's made. You put the arrow in, then when you take it out, that's when most of the damage happens and the pain occurs. And people were like, okay, how do we take this out? So Imam Ali advised them, wait till I go into prayer. And when I pray, you can take it out. So as Imam Ali started praying, they came and they took out the arrow. And after he stopped praying, after he was done praying, he asked them, did you take out the arrow? Meaning he didn't even notice the pain. See, a person can reach a level of faith where pain does not have any effect on him in terms of his prayer or his faith. But other than your faith or other things that are involved, if you look at ourselves, basically human beings, you will see that comfort is a very important part of our life. It's instinctively in our essence to run after comfort. And everything else, from seeking pleasure to desires and temptations, they all come afterwards. Let me give you an example from our own life, and then we'll start from there. Send the salawats. If you look at a newborn child, a child that is just born, you will see that when he gets hungry, he starts to cry. Now, does he know what hunger is? That he didn't have food. It's past my lunchtime. Where's the food? He doesn't know what hunger is, but he does know what is discomfort. He doesn't know what is comfort, but he knows what is discomfort. If his diapers become spoiled, he doesn't know that something happened to him. All he knows is that he's uncomfortable. He's in pain. There is stress. Before you get to know anything else, the first thing and the most primary tendency that has woken up in us is the idea of comfort and to run away from pain and problems and stress and difficulties. We run away from that. This is basically inherent in us. And a person who has not dealt with the issue of comfort in his life, he will not be able to deal with the issue of shahawat, of desires, of temptations, and of pleasures. People are going to succumb to their nafs, to their desires, if they haven't dealt and managed the issue of comfort in their lives. Many people, you will see, they come to, for example, us about their children and say that children are very weak. They are too frail to desires. They are always involved in trying to please themselves. For example, you'll see that kids are playing games all the time and doing all these things all the time, and parents are like that, okay, what do we do with these things? Or, for example, they get involved in haram things, like music. It's so easy for them to get involved in music and to get addicted to it. So now what's happening to them? Well, the issue is not about music. The issue is not about temptations or pleasures. The issue is that they have not been able to deal with the issue of comfort in their life. How do we deal with comfort? How do we deal with pain in our life? Because they're so afraid of pain and discomfort that everything in themselves, you will see a person is ready to succumb to and accept just to be out of pain. And if we do not deal with this issue in our life, it's going to come back and haunt us. And the reason I raise this issue is because it is Muharram. Whenever Muharram comes around, one of the things that's necessary for all of us as Shias of Ahlul Bayt, those who do azah for Imam Hussain, it's necessary for us to do is to learn about those issues that are preventing us from reaching Imam Hussain, that are preventing us from getting to Karbala, and those issues that will help us to be amongst the Ansar and helpers of Imam Hussain. In fact, it is the responsibility of those who get on the member to make sure that Muharram is used to grow those virtues inside of us that help us to be a helper of Imam Hussain. There were many Shias of Imam Hussain, but there's only 72 helpers of Imam Hussain. It doesn't mean that the other people were bad. All it means is that they were not good enough to be helpers. And we need to decide, do we want to be Shia or do we want to be Ansar and helpers? We need to make that decision ourselves. What do we want to be when we look at ourselves? Am I happy just being a Shia, which is good? Because we have hadiths that Shias are going to go to Jannat. Those who cry for Imam Hussain are going to go to Jannat. But they are not good enough to be with Imam Hussain. They're not good enough to be with Imam Hussain. Now, to be with Imam Hussain, you have to have certain qualities. And that's what we see in the companions and the ashab of Imam Hussain. Because Imam Hussain did not ask for Shias in Karbala. He made dua for them. He gave wasiyah to Imam Sajjad and said that when you go back and meet my Shias, tell them that when they drink water, think about my thirst. He advised Imam Sajjad, but he did not ask for Shias. He did not want Shias. He didn't say that, is there any Shia who's going to come and help me? He says, Hal min nasirin yansuruna. Is there any helper who can help me? There are many Shias out there, but how many of you are ready to be a helper? That's the important thing when it comes to Muharram. Trying to find out those qualities that are going to make us a helper of Imam Hussein. Someone who's going to be a sahab of Imam Hussein. That's what we want to learn. And that's why I'm raising this topic, because one of those things, one of those qualities that all the companions of Imam Hussein had in Karbala was they had the ability to deal with pain in their life. The ability to deal with difficulties in their life. And because they were able to deal with that, they were able to stand up to Imam Hussein and not run away. But if you are unable to deal with stress, if you are unable to deal with pain in life, it's impossible for you to get to that position where you are standing next to Imam Hussein and taking an arrow. Or being in that situation where you are in danger. You will run away way before that. Before even you come to that position where you are able to help him. You can't. And that's the reason, one of the things that we need to learn is how to deal with the issue of pain in our life. Let's send a salawat. If a person can logically and sensibly manage pain in his life, let's call it pain management. If he can manage pain in his life, then he will be able to deal with desires, with temptations, with his shahawat, all of these things, he can deal with it. Shahawat do not have the power to bring a person down. It doesn't have it. Look at yourself and your desires. Your desires are not that strong that can hurt you or destroy you. You don't get devastated by desires. You get devastated by the fear of pain in life. And because of the fear of pain in life, you take refuge in desires. Because you're so afraid to deal with pain and stress and discomfort in life that you take refuge in these things. It's never about desires. It's about pain and how to deal with pain. And that's what we want to get to. You know, one of the bad things that we have done as parents, unfortunately, we have it in Hadith also, is that we emphasize to our children and brought them up unable to deal with pain in their life. Any sort of discomfort. They're not able to deal with it. Why? You know, it's because of the parents. You know, they raise them up, and according to hadith, let me mention the hadith for you, that Rasulullah said, he said, woe, I mean a curse, lanat, on the parents of Akhir Zaman. He cursed the parents of Akhir Zaman. He says, and the Sahaba says, which parents? The Kuffar and Munafiqeen? He said, no. The Mu'min parents. Mu'min parents. Cursed beyond them. Why? Because how they will raise their children to be so soft. Unable to deal with pain in life. By being overprotective of them. Always making sure nothing happens to them. You know, if he gets hurt, oh my God, he's hurt, it's like a big deal. You made them soft. And Rasulullah is saying that these, when they grow up, are going to become monsters. Because now they're so unable to deal with pain in life that they will do whatever they can to find their comfort zone. Even if they have to sell their Islam for it. even if they have to sacrifice their Islam for it. Parents are the ones who cause their children to go astray. Why are you raising them so easily? Make them tough. Make them know what pain is. Islam has recommended when a child becomes 7, he should be a slave in the house. Treat him like a slave and make him do things. His back needs to be broken down when he is young. He needs to be so tired when he goes to sleep that I have worked all day long. That's how it should be. But we, unfortunately, there's a lot of people, and this is bad also, that they have completely become slaves of what the West teaches them, which is completely incorrect. These psychiatrists and these people who come about, they think they know something, and they start to teach people about how to raise their children, completely wrong. If you knew how to raise children, you would have raised a society that's good. You have raised a society of monsters who are unable to deal with pain in life. And if we follow them in raising our children, we will have the same thing. Such people, my friends, such kids who are raised in ease and comfort, and that comes with affluence. Affluence meaning money. Whenever you get money and rich, the first thing the parent thinks is that I'm going to give my children the best upbringing. Give them all the gifts, give them all the games, give them the best beds. Even the kids have sleep number beds. You're like wondering, the kid doesn't need a sleep number bed. What are you doing with the kid? But that's what it happens. You raise the kid to be this soft person who doesn't know how to deal with pain in life, and then what happens? What happens to that? This person, this kid, yes, he's going to grow up. And you know what? You want to make him Islamic also, so you send him to Sunday school, so he will learn. But trust me, he will be a student. He will never be a scholar. He will never, such people never are scholars. Yes, he will be a Muslim, but he will never be a helper of Imam Hussein. Such people can't be. They need to know how to deal with pain in life. Pain should be like nothing to them. Stress, pain, bring it on. You know, the more the better. That's how a person should be growing up. A youngster should be like that. You know, I mean, here you are, you have, for example, kids who are being raised not to do any work in the house. In fact, the parents do the work for the children. Even if you come to the masjid, you'll see that. Elders are volunteering, you know, 50, 60-year-old people are volunteering, laying down the carpet for the prayer, or doing all the work, and young kids who have energy and strength, you know, are like sitting around doing nothing. Let me tell you, Rasulullah hated these type of children. Hated youngsters like that. A youngster came to him, Rasulullah asked him, so what are you doing now? He says, nothing. And Rasulullah said, I don't want to see your face again. That's what he said, I don't want to see your face again. Get out of my sight. You cannot stand a youngster not working hard, doing something, labor, working hard. And this is what happens. We are unable to deal with pain in life because we have been grown up that way. And unfortunately, this was the wrong way of raising children up, because we don't know how to deal with pain in our life. When the caravan of Imam Hussein was coming towards Karbala, you see the ladies, Bibi Zainab, Rabab, Layla. Can you imagine them having to do work? Whenever Bibi Zainab wanted something, there would be 10 youngsters around her asking, let me do it for you. Let us do it for you. When Ali Asghar was crying, there will be 10 youngsters coming and saying, give him to me. I'll take care of him. This is the attitude of youngsters. Youngsters should have that in their mind. That is a true youngster who's a mu'min. Someone who comes forward for work. I want to do the work. When you see an elder doing work, you should not just, it is embarrassing to sit there and see an elder do the work while you are sitting around. This is in our nature. And because of the wrong upbringing we have, we end up unable to deal with pain. And when we cannot deal with pain and discomfort in our life, what happens? Then when we want to grow in Islam, you will see there's going to be problems in our deen and our iman. We will say Hussein. We will say Ya Hussein. But do we mean it? Because that meaning is going to come when the decision is going to come between Hussein and dunya. Meaning your comfort. And you see, people are going to sell Hussein for their comfort. Not dunya. They'll say, I will sacrifice my dunya. But when it comes to comfort, it's very hard. Because we never think about that. We never think about that. And we end up selling our deen for comfort. That's what shaitan wants us to do. He comes around and says, okay, dunya, you sacrifice dunya. Live like a thing. Because you're a moment, very good. But then, when it comes to comfort, now, that's something we haven't thought about sacrificing. So how would we sacrifice it when we never thought about sacrificing it? So that's what we want to talk about. Just in these 3 days, I want to touch on this. How do we deal with pain in our life? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, one of the wrong things that we do is that whenever it comes to deen and teaching Islam, in Sunday schools also, and even amongst household, is that we emphasize education. We emphasize education, but we don't emphasize training. We don't emphasize training. Look at our Sunday schools. Look at the books in our Sunday schools. It's all about information. It's all about knowledge. You know, Allah is one, Rasulullah, Ahlul Bayt, Imam Ali. It's all about knowledge. There's nothing about training. There's no training. There's no concept of training this child to grow up, to become mature. There's no training for this child. So now what happens? You have this youngster growing up with all this knowledge, but he has no training to respect it. He has no training to apply it. And when Allah sent Rasulullah, He didn't say, go and teach them. Allah didn't say that. Before you teach them, Allah says, يُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. First you train them and then give them the knowledge. Train them first. Make sure that they grow up, make sure that they're mature before you give the knowledge to them. This is very important. This is a hard knock on our education system that we have. The Muslim Shia education system is truly headed in the wrong direction because there is no training there. How do you train these kids first? And then the knowledge will come. If a person is trained, you don't have to worry about the knowledge, my friends. People who are trained will run after knowledge and they will get it. They themselves will get it. You don't have to teach them. You don't have to run after them and bribe them. Yes, you don't have to say that if you come to the masjid, I'll raise your allowance. You don't have to say all these things. That youngster is going to come because he's trained. But if he's not trained, then you are coercing them, you are forcing them, you are bribing them to do things for you. Why are we doing that? Because we haven't trained them. That's why training is more important for us than the knowledge, and this is the problem that happens in our deen also. What we do is that we come and want to gain knowledge, which is a good thing. Knowledge is a good thing. But when we gain the knowledge and we know that Allah is there, we know Rasulullah is there, we know Ahlul Bayt is there, all of that is there. Now we want to grow deeper in Islam and we want to grow in Marifat. We grow in Marifat all the time. This Islam is becoming stronger in us. This Iman is becoming stronger in us. But what happens at the end? At the end, you, because you are a slave of your comfort, now that Islam that you have will also be a slave of your comfort. Whenever you have to sell Islam on your deen, you will sell it in order for you to be comfortable and get away from pain. La ilaha illallah. Let's send a salawat. So my friends, what we want to do is know how to manage the issue of comfort in our life. We haven't learned it. Shias haven't learned it. I'm sorry. I have not seen anyone even emphasizing this. And if you don't emphasize this, even if you say, Ya laytani kuntu ma'akum, that I wish I was in Karbala, you cannot be in Karbala. You need these things. You can visit Karbala. The army of Yazid visited Karbala. It doesn't matter. They also came to Karbala. But they came to Karbala to kill Imam Hussein. A person who doesn't and is unable to control his pain in his life and know what to do with it is going there to kill Imam Hussein. And that's what happens in Karbala. When you see all these Zahiris come there, what do they do there? The first thing they do is everything that they can to disobey Allah. They do it there. And they think that Imam Hussein is getting happy by that. It cannot be. It doesn't make sense like that. Everyone can come to Karbala, but only helpers are useful in Karbala. Only helpers, Ansar, Hal min nasirin yansurana. Is there any helper who's coming here? I want helpers. I don't want a crowd to come here who have no marifat. Helpers need to come here. These are the words of Imam Hussein. These are the words of Imam Hussein. This is why it's so important for us to look at those things that we need to gain in our life to be with the Imam. And that's what we want to learn. Let's say the salawats. One thing I should say right away is that in terms of comfort, let me read a hadith for you from Rasulullah, and inshallah tomorrow I will go into the hadith of Imam Sadiq regarding this issue and how he addressed this issue and what should this issue be about. One of the hadiths that is from Rasulullah that everyone should know right away, my friends, everyone of you should know right away, is that Rasulullah one day announced to everyone that why are you looking for something that doesn't exist in this world? So everyone asked, Ya Rasulullah, what is it that doesn't exist in this world that we're looking for? He said, absolute comfort. There is no such thing as absolute comfort in this world. Why are you looking for it? You're not going to find it. It's not here. It doesn't exist here. Looking for comfort, looking for that amazing peace is not going to be in this world. You know, especially, and this is for all human beings, but especially a mu'min. Especially for a moment. Allah loves mu'mineen a lot. The Shias. You know, Allah loves Shias a lot, right? And because He loves you, He wants to give you some extra problems. Some more stress. He's not happy with the normal stress that everyone else gets. He wants to give you more than that. We have hadiths about it. Regarding the stress that mu'mineen will get. That they get, especially from Allah. A special gift from Allah is more problems that mu'mineen will get. In one hadith it is said that there are 3 problems a mu'min gets. One of these 3 they will get in life. One of these 3 they get in life. Let me read that for you right now. You know, so that at least you know what hadiths are there regarding this subject. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam has said this. He said that a mu'min gets one of these 3 things. He said, what is that? Either he'll get someone in his house who's going to make his life hell. A wife or a husband or a mother-in-law or someone. Someone in his house he's going to get that is going to make his life hell and give him so much stress. So maybe our problem is in our house. Who knows? We see that. Some people have their problem in their own house. Someone in their house is a problem for them. Maybe a child. Maybe someone is a headache in their life and a cause of stress in their life. That could be the case. Now, if you, for example, are smart enough and say, you know what? I'm going to marry someone who's obedient. Good. Doesn't say anything. All right, fine, That wasn't the only place. Now it says that if you can find a spouse or a family that is good and obedient and everything and don't give you any problem or stress, then the second place Allah gives you stress is from your neighbor. Yes. He will give you a neighbor who's going to cause hell in your life. A neighbor. Finish. You go out and see that because, like you moved to a neighborhood and you saw a house and you saw the neighbors are this nice, retired couple who will always be nice with you, no noise or anything like that. So you thought you had great neighbors and you moved into that house. But what you weren't figured out or you did not know is that those two nice old neighbors saw you moving in, some Middle Easterners, and they moved out. And as soon as they moved out, then Butch moved in on his Harley. And there you go. Now you got a neighbor who hates you. And you have a problem there. See, this is from Allah. Allah says that Allah will give a neighbor who is going to make your life hell. Okay, you know what? Maybe I can choose really good neighbors. I moved amongst mu'mineen and made a society of believers. Yes, alhamdulillah, you did that. Then what happens? He says, now Allah will give you someone in your work or at the masjid who's going to give and make your life hell. Either your boss or your co-worker or someone that you're working with who's going to give you stress in your life. You see that? Third way. And Imam is saying, you are going to get 3 of these. Any 3 of these, a mu'min will get. Now, if a mu'min tries to outsmart the system and says, you know what, here's the best way. If Allah says He's going to give me all these things, let me move to a mountain and stay in a cave. I'm not going to get married, no children, no mother-in-law, no work, no business, no neighbors, nothing. I move to a cave. How about that? Can we outsmart the system? Why can't we outsmart the system? Let's go and live in a cave where we don't meet anyone so you don't get any problems, right? So, well, here's the thing. Imam Shahadat says that, listen, Allah already knows some smart people might be there who might want to outsmart the system. He says, "Law mu'minan ala qullati jabalin." And if a mu'min runs to the top of a mountain and hides over there, then Allah will send a shaitan to go and make his life hell. He will send a shaitan. لَبَعَثَ اللَّهُ شَيْطَانًا يُؤْذِيهِ. That Allah will send a shaitan to go and make his life hell. So my friends, if you are a mu'min, if you are a Shia, your life is going to be in stress and in pain. There is no way out of it. That is what's going to happen with you. Get ready for that. The issue is that we're not going to find comfort here. Imam Sadiq was asked by mu'mineen, by Shias, when will this end? When will our pain end? When will this discomfort and stress end? Imam answered back and said, it will end. Of course it will end. But the first step that you will take in Jannah. Until then, you are living a life of stress. So our issue is not that we want to escape the stress or we want to escape pain. Pain will be there, stress will be there. We want to know, how do we deal with this? What should we do about this? And that's what I want to speak of in the next 2 days, is how to deal with this. Today was just a beginning to show that the issue of stress in life. Now, how do we deal with it? What did Ahlul Bayt tell us that we can do to deal with pain in our life? A lot of us, and what do you mean a lot of us? All of us are going through it. No, you can't deny it. All of us are going through it. We need to know how to deal with it in the proper way. So that if we know how to manage it, then we will be ready to go to higher levels and be a helper of the Imam. So let me just make a dua here, and all of you say Ameen to that, and inshallah, and it will help us to get into our thing. And before I read that dua, just one more point, the attitude of a mu'min should be the same in any situation. See, happiness should not make you spoiled, and hardship should not destroy you. A mu'min has been mentioned, نَزَلَتْ أَنفُسَهُمْ مِنْهُمْ فِي الْبَلَاءِ كَالَّتِي نَزَلَتْ فِي الرَّخَاءِ. He said that a mu'min is the same in difficulties as he is in ease. You will not see a change in him. You will not see him like, he is like worried and stressed out because he's going through pain in life. Because he lost his green card. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen. You're going to go back to Lahore. Lahore is not hell. There are a lot of people living there. Don't worry. Everything will be A-okay. It will be all right. The issue is that, why are you so worried? When difficulties come, don't be worried. That's where we want to reach, because that's the sign of a moment. When difficulties happen, he doesn't break down. When ease happens, he doesn't get spoiled. In both situations, you will see that his mannerism, his attitude is the same. And that's what we want to come to. That's the point we want to reach. Alright, just let me make a dua now, inshallah, and all of you can say Ameen, inshallah, to this dua that I want to read, because it is important for us. And from here, inshallah, that's it for tonight. We will go now, after this dua, towards the Messiah. Let's do that. Why do we want this? To deal with comfort. Why do we want comfort in our life? Just take a moment to think about it. Why comfort is important? Why peace is important in your life? Why do you want to run after it in the first place? Why one more headache of trying to find peace and comfort in your life? Just think about it for a minute. Now let me make a dua for us. Oh Allah, we ask you in this holy month that alleviate from us all our pain and our grief, and give us comfort so that we can dedicate ourselves to Hussein and his family. Isn't this the dua that we want? Why do we want comfort? Don't you want it so that now you can dedicate yourself to Imam Hussein? Now you can say that, now Hussein, I'm free now. No other issue, but the only issue I have is you now, and your pain. Lucky is that man who has no grief in his life except for the grief of Imam Hussein. That is a person who is truly lucky, fortunate. Really, isn't it? That I have no grief except for the only thing I am grieving about, the only thing I'm stressing about is what happened to Hussein and his family. That is it. I don't grieve of anything else. Can we reach that point where now we can sacrifice our comfort for Hussein, for his family? All languages we have this one. What do we say? That koi gham na de siwaye gham Hussein. What does that mean? It means that Allah, I want to control all my pain and find comfort in everything else in life, except when it comes to Imam Hussein. I said, that's where I want to let myself go. I want to let myself go there. Why do you think that, like in Karbala, a lot of strange things happen in Karbala. But one of the strange things that happened is that everyone brought their children with them. Bibi Zainab's children were there. All the Muslim Ibn Aqil's children were there. Everyone brought their children. But you know what? There's one person who did not bring his children. There's only one person who did not bring his children. Did you know that? One person did not bring his children. Hazrat Abbas did not bring his children. Everyone brought their children to Karbala except for Hazrat Abbas. His children were not there. He left them behind in Medina. Why, Hazrat Abbas? Why did you leave your children behind? You know? Hazrat Abbas replied back, I didn't want Hussein to stress over my children being here. That's one less thing for Hussein to be worried about. Hazrat Abbas said, if I bring my children, my Hussein will have been thinking of my children also. I did not want to make him stress over my children. This is, my friends, how we want to deal with things. Can I take some pain away from Imam Hussein? Can I take some grief away from Imam Hussein? Maybe one less thing I need to make him worried about. You know, there was this one companion, Burair, on the Shab-e Ashur, on the night of Ashur, Eve of Ashur, he was there, sitting there, outside the tents. Imam Hussein, after his prayers, walked, and as he was walking, he heard someone from outside the tents. And Imam Hussein asked, who is it? Who is it? And Burair says, Ana Burair. It's me, Burair. And Imam Hussein said, what are you doing here? And Burair, he said, I heard that you said that we are all going to die tomorrow. Imam Hussein said, yes, we are all going to die tomorrow. He said that your children are going to become yatim tomorrow. He says, yes, they will become yatim tomorrow. So, and then you know what he said? He says, well, if these kids are going to be running around here, I saw these bush here with thorns. I'm trying to pick up these thorns so that these thorns don't hurt your children tomorrow. You see, this is, my friends, can I do something in my life so I can take away one worry of Imam Hussein from his life? At least Imam Hussein doesn't have to worry about those thorns now going into his children. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. You know, one of the issues that Imam Hussein made difficult for his family, he spoke to his family. You know, he spoke to the family and he told them something that is going to make their life much harder after Imam Hussein, much more difficult after Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein told them something. He says, La tashku wa la taqul bi alsinatikum ma yanqusu qadrakum. He says, don't complain after me. Do not complain and don't say anything to anyone that is going to bring down your value in the eyes of people. When Imam Hussein said this, now even the youngest child keeps that in their mind, and they, even though they're thirsty, they're dying, they are going through so many difficulties, but those children refuse to take help from anyone or ask anything from everyone. Everyone in the caravan is silent. No one is asking for anything. Why? Imam Hussein says, don't devalue yourself by asking for something. Don't let these people laugh at you. This had made the life of all those so hard. Everyone was so hard that even when people, ladies came and gave drinks, gave things to children, the children would say that sadaqah is haram on us, we cannot take this. We can't take this. He said, but you're thirsty, we don't care, we don't take this. La ilaha illallah. That's it, my friends. You know, we come to Imam Sajjad now. I just want to come to Imam Sajjad. Now you are ready for him. Your eyes are ready and your heart are ready for him. Let me take some time on Imam Sajjad. You know, Imam Sajjad, you know that he was so ill and unconscious that he was hardly able to get up. He was hardly able to open his eyes. He did not even know what was going on around him. He was in so much pain and difficulty, physical pain already. So then, as soon as that he was taken outside the tent, he couldn't even walk outside a burning tent. Bibi Zainab took him outside the tent. She grabbed him, picked him up, and dragged him outside the tent. He couldn't even get up from the tent. And when these people came there, when the army came and they made their way to the tents and around the tent, and they saw Imam Sajjad and they saw Imam Zainul Abidin lying on the ground, they saw that he is not dead. Everyone started taking shots at him and started kicking him in every place of his body. They started punching and kicking him everywhere. Bibi Zainab had to come and stop him from there. He said, leave him be. He is ill. Don't you see him? Let him be. They did not stop there. Imam Sajjad, in that situation that he was in, Imam Sajjad, when he was in that situation, he was now, they said that he's a prisoner, so we're going to treat him like a prisoner, a hostage, and we are going to tie him with chains. Now, they didn't have individual chains. They didn't have individual chains for one person, like handcuffs. They didn't have handcuffs to handcuff him. They had a chain that you chain link a group of slaves together. They had a chain like that. They didn't have a chain for one person. They had a chain that is a long chain, a heavy chain that is used for a group of people to tie them together. So what they did is that they used that chain on Imam Sajjad. It's called a jame in Arabic. This chain called jame, it's like for all these people, put them together and then drag them together as a group of hostages or slaves. That's how you drag them. So Imam Sajjad was given this treatment of putting this chain on him. Now the way they tied him up is that they tied him up with his right hand behind his neck and the left hand behind his back. Really, if you just look at me, for a moment, just like that, I want to see this. The right hand of Imam Sajjad was tied and put behind his head like this. And the left hand was put on his back like this. And then the chain was tied hard so that he cannot move his hands now. He cannot move his hands. One end of it was tied around the camel back. And it was tightened. So now Imam Sajjad was now bent down on the hump of the camel. It was bent down on the hump of the camel. And the other end was in the hand of the jailer or a soldier who was pulling it. So now Imam Sajjad was in this position for 40 stops that they made from Karbala to Kufa and Sham. Going like this, he was taken like this. And now the chain that is now on his neck. You see the chain is on his neck now? This chain, because of the heat of the sun, would get so hot that it would scorch his flesh. It would scorch his neck. And then the movement of the camel to the right and left would make the chain move to the left and right. Would make it move to the left. And it was cutting into the flesh of his neck. And that's why you see that when Imam Sajjad had came back to Medina, when Imam Sajjad was brought back to Medina, and his uncle came to meet him and put his arm around Imam Sajjad started crying. He says, "What's wrong, my nephew? Why are you crying for?" He says, "The pain from the injuries on my neck are still fresh." This is how Imam Sajjad was taken. And then from that point, he was put on a camel back. Now, the way to sit on a camel, even from the earlier days till now, you never sit bareback on a camel. You cannot sit bareback on a camel because the hump is so hard that it starts to hurt you right away. You cannot even sit there for even a few minutes and you will start hurting. It will start hurting you wherever it is because it's just bones there. and it's very hard to sit on it. That's why they put a saddle on a camel. That's the decent thing to do. And in the old days, they used to put mahmil, or mahave is called in Arabic. And that was a thing that you put on top of the camel so that you can sit on top of it. But Imam Sajjad, they made him ride the camel bareback. They put him on the bareback of the camel in that situation. And they made the camel ride. They rode the camel like that. The camel, as it started riding like that, now what happened is that, you see, after Ashura, there were four commands that Umar ibn Sa'd, Mal'un, had given that were so astonishing and so despicable that you cannot imagine how could be. The first thing that he said is raid the tents of Imam Hussein. That was the command he gave. That is the first command. Raid the tents of Imam Hussein. So everyone started running towards the tent. And they raided them and stole whatever they can from those tents. The second command that was given by Umar ibn Sa'd was burn the tents down now. Once they were raided, now he said burn them down. So the tents were burned down. Now there was fire and smoke, and everyone was now on the desert of Karbala. And the third command he gave that was devastating was, he said, to go and behead all the bodies that were with Imam Hussein. To behead them. And all the bodies with Imam Hussein were beheaded. It was so bad that everyone was trying to find a body to behead it. Everyone was trying to find a body. Imam Hussein put all the bodies in one place. And as soon as the order was given, then everyone came and they were dragging these bodies and beheading them. Dragging these bodies and beheading them. One person said that I wasn't a soldier. He was not a soldier. He wasn't strong. He was just an older man. But he was a water boy, like helping out other soldiers. He knew that, you know what, if he tries to fight with the soldiers, he will not get any head there. But he said, I remember there's a head that Imam Hussein had hidden. You know, because Mukhtar arrested him. And Mukhtar killed him. But before he killed him, Mukhtar asked that person. He said, you know why I'm going to kill you? He says, he said, I don't know. I'm not a soldier. I didn't take part in the war. He said, but no, tell me, what did you do? He says, the only thing I did is that I knew that when that child of Hussein was killed, Hussein went behind the tents. And he made a grave. I knew he made a grave for him there. And when the order was given for the heads to be found, I knew I can find a head there. So I ran there to look behind the tents. When the ladies of Imam Hussein, Rabab, and Zainab, and Kulsum, and Sakina, when they saw him coming that way, they all made a fence holding hands. They made a fence to stop him. He says, I saw them stopping me, so I broke them. I broke their hands to go around. I went back there and I started digging the grave up and I found that body. And Mukhtar said, tell me one thing. I still can't believe it. How did you make yourself behead a 6-month-old child? How did you make yourself do that? He said, I swear I didn't do that. As soon as I picked up the body, the head fell by itself. The third command that Umar ibn Sa'd gave was to behead the bodies. The fourth command he gave was to trample the bodies. To go and trample those bodies. And those bodies were trampled with horses. The hooves of the horses were trampling them and breaking the bones of the bodies, and they were just crushing them. And after all of that done, then the fifth order that he gave is that scatter these bodies on the ground. Don't put them in one place. Scatter them to show that these are scattered. They have no value. They're just scattered on the ground. And you know why they scattered them? Because when Imam Sajjad and the hostages and the caravan of Imam Hussein was put on those camelbacks, here's what happens. They were not taken. They were not taken straight to Kufa. You know, they weren't taken straight to Kufa. If you have been to Karbala, you will see this. Where the tents of Imam Hussein are, and then you have the the haram of Imam Hussein, and then on the other side you have the river and Hazrat Abbas and all of that. Well, the way that you go to Baghdad is by going to Hazrat Abbas and backwards. That's how you go to Baghdad. The way you go to Kufa is you go through the tents and this way, out this way. But you see, Umar ibn Sa'd, the sixth command he gave is when everyone was put on the camels, he says, take them around the battlefield and show them their dead. Show them their dead. So that when they were taken around the battlefield like that, everyone was looking at the dead bodies lying on the ground here and there. And then Imam Sajjad saw one body that is so crushed, so ravaged, that there was nothing left in it. Imam Sajjad, he was tied with chains. He made himself fall from the camel onto the ground. And in that ground, in that pit, he was on his knees and he was just looking at the body of Imam Hussein. Tears coming out of his eyes. His heart is crushed. Everything in that way. Bibi Zainab saw Imam Sajjad like that. She came to him hurriedly. He is the Imam of the time. She came to him, grabbed him and said, son, why are you crying, son? He says, they don't treat us like Muslims. They don't regard us as Muslims. Look at them. You see, my friends, anyone who died, they always want to bury their dead, to give them respect. It's a matter of self-dignity to give respect to those who died amongst you. If someone of you has died, like anyone has died in your family, your mother, your father, anyone who has died, you want to make sure that they get their burial. You want to make sure they get the kafan. You want to make sure that people come and read Fatiha, that you have a majlis for them. You have majlis al-tarheem for them. You make duha for them. When Imam Sajjad saw Imam Hussein lying on the battlefield of Karbala, body is crushed, exposed to the world and animals. Imam Hussein, who's lying over there, when he sees that, he starts to break down. Bibi Zainab comes to him, comforts him and says, son, don't cry, my son. He says, but look what they have done to my father. Look what they have done to my father. Bibi Zainab, you know what she said? She said, son, don't worry. Don't think that Allah is going to leave him like this. You think Allah is going to leave him like this? No, my son, there will be a shrine here. This place will be holy. This place will be sacred. And millions will come and give their salam to your father. يعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب يا محمود يا الله بحقك يا فاطر السماوات بحقك يا محسن بحقك يا قديم الأحكام بحقك يا الله give us the tawfiq. Give us the wisdom to understand it. Hasten the reappearance of it. Make us his heart open to come. وآخر الدعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. ما خير.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein.
शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार। पाँव में बेरी तो के गिराबान, शाम का बाजार आबिद बीमार, शाम का बाजार عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار بھولے گا نہ وہ منظر نیزے پہ سر سرور بھولے گا نہ وہ منظر نیزے پہ سر سرور بے مک نہ ہو بے چادر بلوے میں پھوپھی مادر اور مجمع کفار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار دربار میں سر اریاں آتے ہیں حرم گریا دربار میں سر اریاں آتے ہیں حرم گریا اٹھنے لگا ایک طوفان محشر سا تھا وہ ساما اٹھنے لگا ایک طوفان محشر سا تھا وہ ساما جنبش میں ہے دربار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار چوک اٹھی جو گھبرا کے بچی نے کہا رو کر چوک اٹھی جو گھبرا کر بچی نے کہا رو کر اس تشت میں ہے جو سر وہ تو ہے سر سرور کیسے کروں دیدار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار حاکم نے جو سن پایا تو اور ستم دھایا حاکم نے جو سن پایا تو اور ستم دھایا سرپوش کو سرکایا اور بچی کو دکھلایا سرپوش کو سرکایا اور بچی کو دکھلایا مارے نہ ستمگار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار سر جا کے اٹھاؤں میں یا پاس بلاؤں میں سر جا کے اٹھاؤں میں یا پاس بلاؤں میں روداد سناؤں میں سینے سے لگاؤں میں روداد سناؤں میں سینے سے لگاؤں میں دیکھے ذرا دربار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار کہنے لگی پھر رو کر پیاری ہے اگر دختر کہنے لگی پھر رو کر پیاری ہے اگر دختر آ جائیے ہاتھوں پر سب دیکھ لے یہ منظر آ جائیے ہاتھوں پر سب دیکھ لے یہ منظر الفت کا ہے اظہار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار دختر کی صدا سن کر پھر تشن تلاور سر دختر کی صدا سن کر پھر تشن تلا سے سر گودی میں گیا اٹھ کر نالا کے لپٹ کر گودی میں گیا اٹھ کر نالان کے لپٹ کر سدا سے دربار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار پاؤں میں بیری تو کے گرا پان شام کا بازار عابد بیمار شام کا بازار عابد بیمار یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین وہ عابد بیمار تھا وہ عابد بیمار تھا چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا اور شام کا بازار تھا اور مصطفیٰ کی بیٹیاں مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین شبیر کی وہ
لاڈلی شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی سینے پہ جو شاہ کے پلی جس کی ابابن میں جلی وہ پر تماشوں کے نشان مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین شام غریباں چھا گئی شام غریباں چھا گئی عابد کو غیرت کھا گئی پہرے پہ زینب آ گئی عباس اور اکبر کہاں مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین 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 اللہم صلی علی محمد وآلہ
السلام علیکہ یا رسول اللہ السلام علیکہ یا حبیب اللہ السلام علیکہ یا خیر خلق اللہ ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ السلام علیکہ یا ابا عبداللہ وعلى الارواح التي هلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله ابدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر لحظ مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي ابن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى صحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك السلام عليكم جميع المعصومين ورحمة الله وبركاته
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم اللہم کن لولیک الحجت ابن الحسن صلواتک علیہ وعلی آبائہ فی ہذہ الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Please recite five times Ayat al-Shifa for all people who are suffering from our community and all of the world. People are suffering from sick. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات ومن مات على الهدى والإيمان بالخصوص إلى أرواح أموات جماعتنا الحاضرين وبالخصوص for مرحومة Sister Munir Akhtar, daughter of Sayyid Hanif and mother of our community member Brother Shahid. نهدي للجميع ثواب سورة المباركة الفاتحة تسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
نعرہ تکبیر،
اللہ اکبر،
نعرہ رسالت،
یا رسول اللہ،
نعرہ حیدری،